Gamers all around the universe. Yesterday, we did an English guide. Today, we're doing French guide. We're doing the two most popular civs first, then we're gonna go down the line in no specific order, but I wanted to do English first, French second, Mongol, and we're gonna go down the line. I'm gonna do all 8 civs, all right? That's how it goes. So, today I'm gonna show you the French guide in a build that it's usable in every matchup. Obviously, in some matchups, you will have to play different, just like in English guide. Sometimes you're going to make different units and all, but this is what I like to use personally, and I think this is pretty good, and I'll explain my thought process behind it. So, hopefully you guys find it helpful. So, to start with, we're going to go with the second scout. Not only against Rus, but I like going second scout with pretty much every civ. With French, having 2 scouts is pretty good later on to make sure you know where you want to attack with your knights, but also to collect as many sheep as you can, because that is, free food pretty much, so why not? So the moment you start your game, you're going to put 6 on food, and you're going to build a house with 1 right next to your TC. Don't put it there, it's a waste of time. Just put it right there, next to TC. And we're going to be rallying workers on food, and then we'll be going on to the gold. I'm not going to pay attention too much on the scouting part. I mentioned this before. If you're looking for how to send your scouts, where to send your scouts early on, there's a guide for that too on my YouTube channel that will probably help you quite a bit. Now, first things first, you do want 8 villagers on food as French, and if you don't know why, that is because French has a bonus where they create a worker every 18 seconds. So if you actually have 7 on food, you're going to have more gold than you do have food. So, yeah, the usual villager build time is 20 seconds. French have 18, and then with each age up, it reduces even more. So, you're going to want 8 on food rallied, and then you're going to want to rally 3 on gold. And that is how you're going to age up to Feudal. No shenanigans, no early wheelbarrows like English, although we will be getting a fast wheelbarrow. One thing to note is because you're having 8 villagers on food, make sure you don't run out of food. So, kind of get a feel of how far you can send your scouts before running them back. Or what you can do is what I suggest is have 1 scout go deep into the enemy territory and have 1 pick up sheep around your base, deliver them, and then go from then on out. So let me just disable this. There we go. So yeah, 8 on food, 3 on gold, and now I'm going to rally straight to the wood, and the food and the gold counter is slowly going to pile up, allowing me to age up. We're going to make the lumber camp instantly, and I will be getting wheelbarrow, but it will be after I start aging up. The reason for that is compared to English, right? So why do you get wheelbarrow with French after aging up and with English before? Well, with English, there's no timing where you push with like 3 longbows and you do damage, right? Usually opponents are gonna have, enemies are gonna have units. But with French, it's very important that you get to Feudal as fast as reasonably possible so you can get that knight and start harassing. That's why I get age up and then wheelbarrow. So, we got enough resources. As you can see, resources are pretty well spent. 3 workers on the landmark. You can do 4, but I think 3 is better. And what we're going to do now, once we start aging up, we're going to build a mill right here. And that's going to allow us to get that wheelbarrow so juicily and nicely lined up. And this replay, I send workers on wood up to 6, but you should have only up to 5. And then after, you're going to have more. So I'll explain as we go. You can see I'm building a little house as well. So these 5 should go on the wood. And now you should rally on food until you have 10 plus 3 from this landmark. So you want 13 workers on food. This is very important because that will support villager, knight, and archer production pretty much. So yeah, in this replay, I will send 6 on wood. Again, 5 is better. It's a little bit more optimal. We keep 3 on gold. Remember what I said in the English guide, which I suggest you guys watch. You don't want to be moving workers left and right. You want to rally them and keep them there, which is very important to optimize your resources. A lot of people say like, oh, Age of Empires is more on the fly. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, you don't want to be moving workers everywhere. The moment you have 35 wood and 105 gold, you're going to start the wheelbarrow. Oh, I go to 6 workers. Yeah. So again, you need 5 because 5 workers will enable you. The moment you hit feudal, you can put down an archery range, and that's important. That's very important. You want to start archery range instantly and start making units and possibly be aggressive. So right now, I'm gonna rally workers onto the food until I have 13. I'm gonna speed up this thing a little bit, and you can see when the 3 workers. Oh yeah, when the 3 workers from landmark finish, you're gonna send them to the gold. So why 6 on gold? 6 on gold over time will allow you to continuously make knights, get chivalry at some point, and start researching blacksmith upgrades or eco upgrades, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, when and how to get them. So the 3 workers that are on the landmark, you're going to send them to the gold. You can just shift queue them from the moment you put down the landmark so you don't forget. So again, you should have 5 on wood. Build archer range instantly, because you can see I have extra wood I don't need right now. So that's a little bit of a mistake on my part here. And I'm going to be rallying workers until 13. And like I said, this is to make sure you have continuous production of your units, right? Because you don't want to float a lot of resources for nothing. And once I start the archer production, eventually, once you have 13 on food, I'm going to rally on wood. And over time, you're going to be building enough wood for blacksmith. As you can see here, I had it a bit earlier because I had 1 extra villager. And you're going to start your upgrades. Look at it this way. Whenever you wonder, when should I start upgrades? When should I start eco upgrades? As long as you're continuously, if you want to be aggressive with any civ, as long as you're continuously producing units and then you have extra resources, then you start your upgrades. So for example, if I didn't have a goal to produce knight, I wouldn't just not produce knights and then do an upgrade. That doesn't make sense. You want to keep producing units, and then when you have that excess gold or wood or whatever, then you do the upgrade. So I'm still rallying up to the food. Still don't have quite enough, which you can see the production is struggling a little bit. But that's gonna get fixed. And with this first knight, it's going across the map. So another important thing is, where do you attack? And a lot of people, I think, don't really know where to attack. You know, they just kind of send it to whatever resource. I think personally, obviously if the opponent is under TC having sheep, you can't go there. Like, you're gonna lose the knight. So your best option is usually the gold, because it allows you to attack the enemy without your knights getting attacked by TC. Most maps, the TC will not be in range of actually defending. Another good option is mill or berry, sorry. So for example, this berry spawn is a little bit farther away from TC. So you can actually come from this side and attack like a villager here and then run away before TC starts blasting you. Or you can go on wood lines that are more exposed. Like, you don't want to come from this side, right? You want to come from the opposite side because it's more open and it's farther away from TC. So there's no specific rule where you always go for the gold or you always go for the wood. You kind of have to figure out what's the best resource to attack. Another thing to consider, sometimes if the TC is here, the gold will be here, right? So I can't say always go for the gold, because that's going to require you to go all the way around. So maybe it's better to do a little poke here onto the wood and then rotate onto the berries and then rotate onto the gold. So you kind of want to make sure you're kind of continuously harassing and not just focus on one resource and do nothing else. So important thing is, don't lose knights, okay? They're very expensive and you don't want to lose them. If you don't have, so a lot of people might say, well, I don't have APM for that. That's fine. Then don't do like the harassment with 2-3 knights. Build up an army and then go for a push. But just don't lose your knights. It's very important to not lose them. The knights become, just like any unit, stronger and stronger the more you have them. And eventually, if you have like 10 knights, you can even raid under TC, because there's so many knights that you're gonna kill some villagers anyway. So if you see a worker and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go in, and you lose a knight, you kill a villager, it's not worth it. If you kill a villager and lose some health, that's good. So as I explained that, obviously this is AI, so he doesn't have villagers, you know, mining and all that. But I will show you a little bit here. I kind of try to simulate how you should be going about it. So here, let's say this was on a resource like berries or wood. You can see I go in here, I take the good side, I do a little poke. Maybe I try to pick it off, and I move away. You know, don't be greedy. One thing to know, if you have blacksmith at the time of attacking, French has free +1 melee attack when your blacksmith is built. So what this allows you is if you do a charge and an auto attack, you two-shot the villager. So the villager, as you saw there, it got charged, auto attack, and then it died. This only happens if you have blacksmith +1, which French automatically get. So, as you saw there, I just picked off a worker, lost 50 health. He ran away with workers, I ran away alive, perfect. If I went to continue chasing, even if I got another worker, that's a mistake because that knight would be dead. So, harass responsibly. Second knight, when it comes out, or third knight, you can either join it with this one and do double harass, or do, you know, 2 knights at the same time on the same place. Or if you think you have more APM and you can handle it, then I would suggest, you know, send 1 knight onto here, 1 knight onto wood, make your opponent sweat a little bit, because it's very hard to keep track of the enemy's knights and see where they're at and defend them. As I'm sure most of you know, doesn't matter what league you are, defending knights is pretty difficult. So, back in our base, I got 13 on food, and I think I'm gonna, yeah, I rally on wood right now. So, as you see, I have not started any of the upgrades yet. I think I'm gonna start plus weapons for arrows pretty soon. As you can see, I'm still producing out of TC, archery range, and I'm getting a knight. And you don't want to get a ram upgrade now. This is another mistake that people make very often, is they get the ram upgrade now. But I only have 8 villagers on wood, and this is 225 wood per minute, so that means I'm going to have to wait almost a minute and a half just to have enough wood to build a ram. That's not efficient play. So what I want to do is take Steeled Arrow first for my archers, and then get Siege Engineering later, as I have more workers on the wood, so the ram comes more naturally as the resources build up, instead of me cutting units to get a ram out. Because if I build a ram with 3 archers, how am I going to protect it if I have no units, right? So that's something to consider. Now, yeah, I start +1 weapons here. As you see, I had that excess gold while still producing knights, while producing archers, so I go for it. Now, one thing to note is I tend to play very, very aggressive these days, and I send my archers instantly because opponent will usually have spearmen. So let's say this is his gold and he has like 3 spears here. You can poke around with 2 archers and start working on the spearmen, and then if they run away, your knights go in, right? This is the, you know, basic gameplay of French. You have archers for spearmen, you have knights for horsemen or villagers or archers or whatever else. Now, again, if you don't have the APM, I would suggest maybe rally your units here and wait for a little big of an army to attack. If you feel comfortable attacking with this few units and harassing and mitring while keeping up your production, then do that or practice that, but you don't have to. This is not like you have to do this or you're going to lose the game. This is just getting the most out of your civ. There's nothing wrong if you're in the lower league to just rally your units right here, harass with 1 or 2 knights, and then just build up an army until you get a ram and then go for a push. So that's something to consider. And I always like to bring this up because sometimes people say, when I made StarCraft 2 guys, they're like, oh, this is great, but I don't have APM for this. And I realized that's a good point, so I should give people the alternative to how they should play. Another thing is, if I play against English maybe, as French, I would get +1 ranged armor first because they have a lot of longbows, right? If you play against double or triple archery ranges from Rus or other civs, you can get ranged armor upgrade first. If you're playing against spearmen horsemen, then clearly you can just skip it and not get it at all. So that's something that you know, goes from game to game, and it depends on what your opponent is doing, and you can kind of adjust. So if your opponent is English right now and he has a bunch of longbowmen and stuff, and you haven't quite done enough damage, maybe getting that armor upgrade and attack upgrade for your archers is better first. and then you get siege engineering a bit later. Again, we're building the lumber camp to refresh it, like I've done with English when I played. Still no eco upgrades, by the way. And remember, eco upgrades are pretty much, in my opinion, only after 15 workers on that resource. So if I'm looking to have 15 plus workers on wood, getting double broadaxe is now a good thing to do. If you're gonna stay on 10 workers or something, it's not worth it. It's better to use that money, that resource somewhere else. You can see here, I'm not going quite for siege engineering because this is an English opponent. I'm going for +1 ranged. This will also allow you to maybe dive under TC a little bit and be able to take more arrows without your knights dying. And again, I don't quite have the wood income to support the insta-ram. Now, your plan as French in general is to, get some workers killed, get some, pick up their scouts so they can't see where your knights are coming from. And once you kind of kill a worker here, kill a worker there, eventually you should, in theory, have enough units to just bust through. And as long as you, in fights, your priority is keeping knights away from spearmen, killing spearmen with your archers, and then letting your knights clean everything up. So unless you have like 15 knights versus 5 spears or 8 spears, don't engage in like 10 knights into 15 spears. You're gonna lose the game. So you need to do a little bit of kiting, a little bit of target fire, and never make spearmen as French, by the way, unless you're playing a mirror match, because if the opponent is going horsemen, the knights beat horsemen already, so you don't need spearmen to kill their horsemen. Your knights already do that. That's something to remember. That's why French unit comp is always knights archers, because they counter that unit comp beats everything that opponent can do. Another thing, you have 2 options here. This is the point where, like in English, I think this is how you should play French pretty much almost every game. If you play French mirror, instead of this archery range, you would add another stables perhaps, or barracks for spearmen, because the opponent will be going knights. And you wouldn't have as many workers in wood. So that's something to remember, because there's no point making archers in French mirror if their main units are knights. So here you have 2 options. Either you're gonna stop having 8 workers on wood maximum, and then go more into gold and food, and continue producing units but slowly go castle, or you're going to throw down another archery range and another stable and fully commit to attacking your opponent. And this is something I talked about in English video. French plays very similar to English, where you can and should control the map like 95% of the games. So what the French main play style is at the high level is, if you're harassing like this all the time when you're in front of the opponent's base, eventually, if you're like, oh, but I can't do any damage because the opponent has berries here and sheep, eventually they will run out of food. So then they gotta go on these deer, then they gotta go on these berries, they gotta go on these berries. And by spreading themselves out, the knights become automatically more powerful. So if you add the second archer range and second stable, you can basically overpower and overwhelm your opponent. When's the knight healing upgrade? That's a good question from the Twitch chat. Knight healing upgrade is, I usually continue making knights until I feel like I can no longer do damage to workers. Maybe they have good setup, or my first 2-3 knights took too much damage. So if I'm harassing with first 2 knights, let's say, and they're full health, like they're, if you look at my knights, let's say these 2 knights, and they're full health, no reason to get chivalry, right? That's the healing upgrade, because they're pretty much full health. So I would keep making knights. But if I had 3 knights and they're like 20, 30, and 40 health each, you can't harass with those anymore. So it's better to get chivalry up and start healing them. Okay? So that's a good question, and thank you for reminding me, because that's a very important question. I often see people get a knight and then get chivalry straight away. But by getting chivalry, you're killing a knight. Knight production time is 29 seconds. Chivalry is 1 minute. So you're killing 2 knights to get that upgrade, right? So unless you're saving 2 knights, it ain't worth it, because you're delaying 2 knights worth of production. Something to think about. Thank you for the question. So in this game, I keep rallying on wood for a little bit longer. I'm going to add a second archer range, then I'm going to add a second stable. Once you have a second stable, you want to have at least 8-9 workers on gold to be able to double produce knights. And with this many workers on wood, you'll be more than fine producing archers and eventually rams. And also you want to go probably with, 2 stables and 2 archer ranges, you probably want to go up to 20 workers on food. So that's something to remember as well. Like whenever, if you go like 1 stable and if you're fine with 13 workers, then if you go 2 stables, you clearly need to increase a couple of workers on the food to get the food income up, right? So you can actually continue producing. So that's something very, very important to remember. You can see second archer range coming in. And around this time is a good time to get your eco upgrades if you have excess gold. Like right now, there'd be nothing wrong with getting horticulture because I'm about to put more workers on food sources. So, getting that little boost for my workers wouldn't be a bad idea, or getting double broad axe wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, you don't want to stop your unit production for it, but if you have access, if your macro slipped up, whatever, you can go for it. I'm going for deer right now, and like I said, one of the great things about French in the current meta is by being aggressive, you deny your opponent's food, and then, I can go on this deer path without a worry in the world. I don't need to build a tower, I don't need to be careful, because I'm in front of opponent's base, and I'm just doing all the harassment and damage. You can even get the boar. Boar is an amazing source of food income. You can also get that, and just kind of win with food in the long run. Or like I said, you can go castle, get relics, get second TC, whatever else you want. Someone asked when to transition to farms. You transition to farms when food resources are out. If you're playing a game with any civ, and let's say you took these deer, you took these berries, but you can't get these berries and this deer because your opponent has the map control, you're in a bad situation. Doesn't mean you're auto losing, but this amount of food and this amount of food you don't have. The opponent has denied it from you. They will continue to produce army while you have to gather wood and gather farms. So technically the best time to do farms is when you are about to run out of all food. That is the perfect case scenario. Like if these are the last berries on your side of the map, and you just sent 20 villagers there or 30 villagers, you should start making farms. That is the perfect case scenario. But you should judge it based off of, okay, can I get the next food source or not? So if I'm gathering here, if I can't get these and this is already gone, then I should think about farms. What about English? Well, there's an English guide. You can check it out. So yeah, from here on out, you just, like I said, play aggressive. I like to play French very aggressively. And here you can make a ram. You can see what I was talking about. I keep producing archers, and I'm about to have 300 for a ram. And you make a ram, you do a push. There's multiple ways to go about doing French. You can also go double TC, which, just like with English or any civ, I would not suggest if you're not very, very experienced. Just playing super aggressive will work. I do it at a high level. I do this style and it works, so there's no reason why it wouldn't work for you. If you prefer to play more defensive and stuff, that's fine. That's viable. It is harder to do, in my opinion. And also, if you want to play defensive, if you want to play more macro-oriented, I always say there are better civs for it. If you want to play 2TC, Imperial, pick other civs, right? Pick English, pick Chinese, even Abbasid is very good for it. So if your playstyle is more defensive, pick more defensive civs. It's not necessarily bad to go 2TC with French, it's just in a way harder to pull off. And you want to play to the strengths of your civ, not necessarily weaknesses, but if French is strong aggressively, that's how you want to play it. If you do rush castle with 1 archer range and 1 stable, and you slowly go castle while being aggressive, you can do that. Your goal is to maintain the map control. You take the relics, and from then on out, you can go for like many choices. You can go for mass army production, overwhelm your opponent. You can go for Sacred Side win. You can go for second TC and you know, keep macroing. That's up to you. And that's why when I do these kinds of guides, I can only lead you up to like 1 point. But then there's so many variables going into the game where I can say if opponent does this, you do this, because there's 8 different civs and each civ can do like 3-4 different things. So I'm kind of trying to give you guys a general overview on how to play, what your goals are. And the more you play that civ, when you play different matchups, you'll learn different things by having experience in those things yourself. So you can hopefully make decisions. We got another question from Twitch chat. How to harass a closed map and the opponent walls up his base? Well, there's not many maps that are easily wallable. There's Mongolian Heights that is easily wallable, and Hill and Dale. Those are the only maps in the map pool that you can easily wall, right? And well, on both of those maps, French is not very good for that reason, because you make a knight, they wall, and then you are stuck with a knight. And the civs that usually play on that map are like HRE or China, and they just go eco boom and you fall behind. So yeah, technically you can also be aggressive with Mongolian Heights and Hill and Dale with French, but those maps are not good for French. Altai is also not great for French, just to know. So best maps for French are Dry Arabia, Lipany, and Highview. If you play Altai, Altai basically has 2 different spawns. It has one more closed off and one more open spawn. So sometimes your opponent can be very walled off, and French isn't good on it for that reason. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching on YouTube, the next civ I will be doing is most likely Rus or Mongols. I will be recording it either today or tomorrow. Let me know what you would like to see next. For Twitch gamers, let's keep going.